Today we're going to be talking about the principle of mothering, the parenting impulse, the way that we care, give, and encourage and support anyone who is younger than us, which is all of us. We all count. So as I invite our bowl to sound, I'm going to invite you to call to your awareness whatever it is that rings for you at the level of being cared for.
Reverend Carol's going to be lighting the chalice this morning. The reading for the chalice lighting comes from the UUA Worship Web and was written by Mary J. Harrington. It's called Come Together in Praise and Thanksgiving. We come together today in praise and thanksgiving for the gift of life itself. Someone gave birth to us, and some of us have given birth. All of us have been mothered in our time. All of us have mothered. Let our time today be one of recognition that we arrive from so many places: joy and delight, wistfulness and longing and worry, unmet needs and unfulfilled dreams, loss and sorrow, loss and emptiness, loss and regret. All that life is made of, mothers are made of too. Today we sing the songs of so many: mothers who are single parents, foster parents, mothers who relinquished their young out of necessity, mothers who found their heart in adoption, mothers who left their children in 1,000 ways, mothers who rejoice, and mothers who mourn. We sing the songs of the grandmother, the auntie, the classroom teacher, the Sunday school teacher, the babysitter, the neighbor with the endless cookies and time. There is a kind of love we cannot live without. It is never too late, no matter our age or situation. We sing a song of gratitude for all the moments of being known, being cherished, being found. We're also going to light 2 additional candles, as we customarily do. One in recognition of suffering in the world, whether from the actions of humans, direct or indirect, or from the natural world itself. And another candle to remind us where there are good people who are willing to take action, there is also hope.
So today, we are thinking about what I think of as parenting as much as mothering. Now, we live in an age when something I consider to be a good thing, the gender binary is being broken down. Anybody, woohoo, yeah, woohoo for that, right? Anybody remember the days when if you were assigned the gender of a woman, you couldn't wear pants in public? My mother, when I was a young person, my mother she would not be caught in public wearing anything other than a skirt or a dress, right? I would just like to say that I'm relieved that I can wear pants, right? Amen, right? And what about the idea that men couldn't be the one who stayed home and took care of the children, right? So we live in a time when it is much more acceptable to understand that the roles of mothering and fathering, once divided by sex assigned at birth, are now roles that we all play. that the active, assertive, out in the world roles that are often assigned to men are things people who identify as women can do, and that they have a few high school friends that still communicate there. So every once in a while, I happen to go on there, and I rarely get caught, and I rarely get sucked into the vortex that is the algorithms, but every once in a while I do. And this last week, it's all been random assortments of parenting things, right? So anybody else here like America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, Australia's Got Talent, the world's got talent, the whole Simon Cowell universe? It's the universe that is Simon Cowell. So for those of you who aren't familiar, they're basically talent competitions. And I am a sucker for a good talent competition, especially when there's an underdog. And lately, it's been a world of a 15-year-old person who wants to sing with their grandpa, or a guitarist whose mom plays the cello and they're together, or someone who is doing an act in honor of and just to make their mom or their dad proud. So it's been a world of like, there's something about that heart-touching connection between the younger person and the elder mentor, right? So that has been, somehow the algorithm knows. You should be paying attention to this. So it's been coming up a lot, and it makes me think, as I watch those, how important we all are to people younger than us. So, of course, today, we want to take first just a moment, because as my husband Tracy says, if men had to give birth, there would be no future for the planet. He's like, I'm not strong enough or brave enough for that act. So the first, we do want to just acknowledge, if you are a person who has actually given birth, congratulations, thank you, amen, hallelujah, whatever, right? This is a very difficult job. So there is a reason we have specifically a recognition of that role. That is a hard job. And it is something that we want to be incredibly grateful for. And then, after the moment of birth, the hard job of raising a child is not a solo job. Unfortunately, in some cases, we still think it is, and we still expect one person to do it. But we know that that is not true. It is not a solo job. It is the job of a whole community. So I will just tell, bless you, Ash, bless you. So I have 4 kids. I have 2 sons and 2 stepdaughters, and 3 of them have partners, so that's 7 in all that I think of as sort of my immediate family of kids. I am also an honorary grandma to an almost 3-year-old. Some of you met my almost 3-year-old little boy yesterday at the picnic at the farm. And I have a whole bunch of young adults who are also my kids. I have two young adults that I've been mentoring since they were middle schoolers who are graduating from UT next weekend, right? So there's this whole crowd of people that I think of as my kids. And on days like today, when we are having these holidays, I'm reminded of all the ways we parent. We are biological parents, we are adoptive parents, we are aunties and uncles, we are teachers. Many of us are people who were full-time caregivers or are full-time caregivers of younger people. So if you are a person in this room who has devoted 24/7, 365 to the raising of a child, first just raise your hand, because we're going to clap for you. Right? It's a big job. But how many of us, how many people in this room have ever, in any capacity, taught anyone who was younger than you? okay? And this includes if you were in school. I said to Tremaine this morning, if you're a senior in high school and you helped a freshman in the choir, you get to raise your hand for this, right? It doesn't have to be a child. It can be anyone younger than you. How about nieces and nephews? Nieces and nephews, right? Or how many of you have kids in your neighborhood? Okay, how about how many of you have ever gone to, and I want you to honestly raise your hand for this. How many of you have ever gone to the grocery store and encountered a child under the age of 10 in the grocery store? And I mean in line, right? Right? Many times, some of the best parenting comes from someone not known to us, not that far from our own age, right? Sometimes a sibling, a friend, a distant relative. How about babysitting? When we babysit, anybody babysit as a teenager even, right? You know, I want to be really clear. The act of full-time parenting is an incredibly important role. It is probably the single most influential role in our society. And particularly in the way our culture is designed, the role of the mother, for some reason or other. Many of us in this room have lost mothers. Mothers that have passed. Mothers that were unavailable or unable to parent. Mothers that were taken from us too soon, or mothers that were in some way more harmful than helpful. That is an experience that many of us have. So this day can be met with incredible grief and struggle, as well as celebration and joy. So it's easy to oversimplify Mother's Day. And yet it's a really complex set of things that it can bring up for us. So what is the mothering principle? What is the parenting principle? We did a little exercise in spiritual practices this morning about the mothering principle. So I'm going to invite all of us to do a little exercise in this, okay? So if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. Or simply gaze at something that's restful to your eyes. And first call to mind whatever you think of when you think of mother. First thing. And that might not necessarily be a positive or restful experience. It might bring up grief, it might bring up anger, it might bring up confusion, or it might bring up joy, loss. What comes up for you when you call to mind mother? And now allow that to just rest for a minute and call to mind what we're going to call the Great Mother, the mothering experience that every human longs for. The experience of whatever it is that could hold you when you're scared and struggling. The thing or the presence or the person or the place where you can rest when you're really tired. The presence that recognizes you and knows you like nothing else can know you. This might not be a person for you. It might be a grandmother or an aunt, a teacher, your actual biological mother, a friend, a mentor. It might be the earth. It might be a beach. It might be a tree. But the feeling of being held, cared for, known, loved, appreciated. These are the things we all long for. So just allow yourself to take a moment to experience that awareness, that sensation. And when you feel ready, open your eyes if you've had them closed. I can remember being a young girl and being raised to embody the traits of mothering. I was conditioned to embody those traits. I was lucky in the sense that I had a mom who tried really hard to be those things. And one of the great blessing curses of my childhood is that my mother was also a teacher. She was a middle school teacher for 40 years. So my mom was the mom to pretty much every kid in my hometown, which distracted her a little bit sometimes from mothering the kids in the house where we lived, me and my brothers. But I was lucky. So by the time I was 11, 12 years old, I felt very confident in that role. I had no idea how demanding the actual 24/7, 365 role would be, but I can remember being 12 years old babysitting. My first babysitting job. I had 5 little girls. The oldest was 5 for 7 hours. Trial by fire. And I felt perfectly comfortable doing that because I had been raised to know how to do it and to feel confident about it. But many of us don't have that sense that we are able to nurture and encourage and be that presence we all long for. So a lot of us go through life feeling like we want it and we can't find it, or there's not enough of it. One of the things we said this morning in spiritual practices is if we all had that feeling inside of us, the world might be a little bit less stressed out right now, right? There's a lot of not nurturing, calm presence going on. So, fur babies. How many of us have had a furred, feathered, finned, or scaly baby? Did you not parent and mother that little creature? How many of us started doing that when we were little tiny people? Remember your first pet? Remember your first pet? Probably you also remember making mistakes with your pets, especially when you were a small child. We all make mistakes in these roles. Every single one of us in this room is called in moments that are sometimes very brief and fleeting, and sometimes in long, extended phases of our lives, to be the ones providing the caregiving to those who are younger than us. And the only way we learn to do that is by being aware of and appreciate. Do not answer this out loud because we have very emotional responses to this. How well mothered were you? There's a range of answers to this question. How well mothered were you in the scope of your whole life? And how well fathered, how well parented do you feel in your body? I can remember when I was a young minister, a new minister, I was working in a church in Northern California. And that question was a question I was contemplating. Like, what did I take in as the role, as the way of being? And at the time, I was very far from my parents. So I couldn't really turn to them to say, like, hey, I need you to do some stuff. And I looked around the church I was working at, and I thought, there's there's some elders in this church. They look wise. And I went and found me some parenting figures, very consciously and very actively. I went and found some people who embodied those qualities that meant so much to me. Qualities that I knew I hadn't developed very well. I was pretty good at the nurturing, caregiving part, but I kind of was terrible at the assertive, go out and stand up for myself part. So I went and found some people who did that well. And I said, will you talk to me? Will you answer some questions? Will you sit with me? Will you help me with this? And they said yes. A few years later, after I was a few years into my ministry, I was in a congregation in the Monterey Bay in California, and there was an elder woman in the church who hadn't had any children of her own. She had not had biological children, and her husband had passed away a few years before, and she knew that she was darn smart, had a lot of darn good experiences, and they should be shared with the next generation. She had an absolute conviction about her role as an elder. So she found a family in the congregation that needed a grandma, but didn't have one. She approached a single mom, a young single mom with 2 young children, and said to them, would you like a grandma? And this young mom was like, yes, please. Because she was estranged from her own family. Yes, please. And by the time I got to this congregation, which was a few years later, these 2 little girls who, when their grandma had adopted them, they were in elementary school at the time. By the time I came into the picture, they were teenagers, and they were as close as they could be. This was their grandma. She had stepped into the role, regardless of her biological relationship to the family. So, not all of us are going to go do that. Not all of us are going to say, well, I didn't really get that skill. I think I'll go find a person to just adopt me. And not all of us are going to say, well, I think I'll go find a family and take them on as my own. Right? So those are extreme examples. But they're extreme examples of something that we can do every day in our own lives. The first step, number 1, is what these holidays honor: gratitude for those who have embodied these roles and traits in our lives. So we're going to do a little exercise out loud. I'd like you to think of 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 people who have been in your life, who have held these roles, particularly the mothering, nurturing, caregiving, holding, tending, what we call the mothering principle. And it can be any gender that does that. Gender identity is not really the key to that. And we're going to say their names out loud in gratitude and appreciation. So I'm going to step away from the microphone, and I'm going to start speaking some names, and I'm going to invite you to join me in just naming out loud those people whom you are grateful for having been the person that you can still, even in your mind, think, man, I wish they were here. Even if they're not here, we hold that thing that they carried within us. So let's speak some of those names. Marion. Lynn. Anna. Georgia. Julia. Beulah. Notice how we become tender when we speak their names. We become softer and quieter. Even speaking their names evokes a feeling of softness and tenderness and gentleness within us. How can we embody that in the simplest of ways in our daily lives? There's a fierceness, too, that goes with caring for younger generations and younger creatures, smaller creatures, those that are more helpless. I remember once I was at a beach on the California coast. I was in the parking lot, and there were a lot of people in the parking lot at this beach, and there was a gentleman with a dog that he was treating badly. And people were walking away, looking away, and my mama bear kicked in, and I was having none of it. And he was a lot bigger than me, and it was a German Shepherd. And I was having none of it. And despite the protestations of the people I was with, I walked right up to him and said, "Stop it. Stop it. You can't treat that animal that way." I have been known to do this in the grocery store when someone is speaking harshly to a child, to walk up to them and say, "Do you need help?" Not in a scared, freaked out kind of way, but in a like, "I am here, I am present, I see what's happening. Do you need help? Can I help you?" I've been cussed out more times than I can count. Now, why would I do that? Because that child just learned that someone else thinks it's not okay. Because when we say to ourselves, "Oh, that thing that's happening out there and that with that child I don't know," when we say to ourselves, "Well, I can't make a difference, I'll just make it worse," what the child internalizes is everybody else thinks this is okay. But if I say, "This isn't okay," even if the big scary dad or the mom cusses me out, threatens me, and I remain in that place of I am the nurturer, I am the caregiver, I know what it's like to be the strong, loving presence. When I can stay there, that child has just been parented, if only for 4 seconds. That child has just experienced what it's supposed to feel like, and now they have something to compare it to. Now they have something to contrast their experience to, and now they know that somebody else thinks there should be something different happening. Let's try another example. You're in the grocery store, and the toddler is throwing an absolute fit. How do we respond? That poor parent. My husband Tracy loves to tell, one of my favorite parenting story is Tracy in the grocery store with our oldest daughter, Macy, when she's a toddler. She loves the little baby food, what'd she call it? Broccoli chicklin. Broccoli chicklin, okay? That's her favorite. But she also likes to throw things. And she's got a lot of hands. And there's this wonderful story of Tracy pushing the cart with Macy, going through the broccoli chicklin aisle. And Macy. Ooh. Right? So when you're in the store, put yourself in the role of the parent for a minute. It's rough. It's rough, right? It's easy when you're not the person in the role of the parent at that moment to be really annoyed, especially if the broccoli chicklin's on your new outfit, right? That's annoying. It's really annoying and easy to say when you see that child throwing a temper tantrum and flinging themselves around, what terrible parenting. The parent should have done better. It's really easy to do that. But what if we embody, no matter what our role is, What if we embody that principle we want so much to have in the world? What if we call to mind that person or that presence that could show up with calm, with patience? This morning, the way we were describing it in spiritual practices is both open and empowered, strong and yet gentle, right? Not freaking out, setting good boundaries, but also with compassion. Imagine yourself in that moment. How many of us find it easy to gaze in a stern or judgmental way in one of those moments? So one thing we can do, the first thing we can do is simply call to mind in our lives regularly those people, places, situations in ourselves or in others, in the world, where we can find that. Where can I find the presence that I wish there were more of for me and for everybody else in the world? Where can I find that? I'm going to call it up, and I'm going to hold on to it, and I'm going to call it in. And then second, it doesn't take adopting a whole family. It just takes using our eyes and our words and our bodies and our attention in ways that express that to make a difference. So, can we use our gaze in a way that is strong but gentle? Can we look at others, particularly those that are more vulnerable, those that are smaller or less powerful, of whatever species? Can we turn that gaze to them? And how about our words? Let's call to mind the ways we use our words about other generations. It is not uncommon when we are in our, 15 to 35, sometimes 65 age. It is not uncommon for us to have a lot to say about what the people before us did wrong. Can I get an amen on that? Right? Yup. Right? It is not uncommon for us to have a lot to say about what the people before us did wrong and messed up and made it hard for us. If y'all had only gotten it right, things would have been a lot easier. But we have to remember that those people felt the same way about the people before them, and they felt the same way about the people before them. So everybody's just doing their darndest, right? So, as we're calling in people, we can think about the words we use to describe the older generations. And how about the younger generations? Some of us who are older, I guarantee you, we have said the words or heard the person next to us say the words, "kids these days," right? Or something to the same effect. Saying words in a way that are not patient, kind, compassionate, clear. It is possible to make assessments about older and younger generations in ways that embody these qualities. I see this behavior in these people. They are struggling. They need our support. This is the moment where I do a public service announcement for compassionate communication. Okay? So we are taught to speak about things that distress us in ways that are harmful. We are taught to speak to each other when we are distressed in ways that are harmful. Anybody ever notice that when we think of the good mom, the mom who's doing her job well, she's not the one going, "You rotten little..." Those aren't the words, right? That the mothering, that principle which anybody can embody, is boundaries with tenderness, boundaries with compassion. So you are going to all have an opportunity to join us. Starting twice a month now, we're going to be doing compassionate communication training. And I will tell you that the board has asked that this be a congregation-wide project, that we all learn how to embody this quality. Thank you, Brad. You are my hero. Right? So there are ways that we can learn to be the thing. Today, our culture honors mothers. Every day, we can honor these principles in others who are able to embody them, and in ourselves when we are able to embody them, and we can cultivate them. Because I guarantee you that there is someone in your life, and it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're 10, there's a 3-year-old. One of the Facebook videos this week that was fabulous was a series of videos of a young man and his baby sister. So the first video is when the baby sister is newborn and he's like 8, and him holding her, looking at her lovingly, carrying her and dancing with her. And then the second video is a few years later when he's maybe 13 or 14, and she's, 5, right? And he's, they're out in the nature somewhere, and this, big, strong 14-year-old kid is the one lugging the 5-year-old who doesn't want to walk anymore. And then the last one is the older brother as a college football player with his little sister, holding her, hugging her. That makes me want to cry, right? Right? It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what your relationship is. We all have the capacity to know ourselves as the ones who are strong enough and open enough and gentle enough and loving enough and clear enough to make the world a better place, safer and more receptive for someone or something smaller and more vulnerable than us. Just take that in for a minute. And I want to invite you to call to mind, again, one person who did that for you, in whatever way they did it. And just give a little nod of thanks. And now call to mind someone in the next generation. Maybe someone who's just a few, if you're 80, that person might be 60 that really needs you. Because none of us outgrow this need. Not a single one of us outgrow this need. To this day, the first person I call is my mommy. And half of the things I need to talk to her about, she ain't got no clue what I'm talking about. She's not helpful at all, but she's still my mom. Right? So, and I'm not 20 anymore. So, call to mind one person who is younger than you that you kind of know could use that gentle gaze, that reassuring word, just that acknowledgement that you see them, that you value them, that you treasure them, and that you're there for them. And some of us, for some people, this is natural. It's sort of in your role, or it's in your life, or it's something you do all the time. For you, who some of us do this like all the time, pick someone weird. Pick someone not obvious, right? Pick someone that you wouldn't think to do this for. Challenge yourself a little bit. And if this is something that's unfamiliar or not something you need to do or are able to do or happen to do in your daily life, pick anyone. Today, we give thanks and we honor all those who embody what we will call the mothering principle. The nurturing, the caregiving. And let us take a moment also to honor and recognize Mother Earth, because none of us would be here doing anything without our planet that provides life and food. And let us cultivate those qualities in ourselves every day. Whenever we long for that thing, let us remember all the ways it is available to us. Give thanks for all the ways it shows up, and commit ourselves to carrying it forward to the next generation and the one after that and the one after that. May it be so. So the choir is going to sing a song. So I'm going to invite the choir to come up. We're going to sing a song for you that is about the way that all the generations, and come up in front of this mic, you guys, so we can hear you. Like, make a line here. We're going to sing a song that's about the way that all of us are in a line of generations, from generation to generation to generation. This is called We Are. And it's a song we've sung before, but it's about how all the generations long for the next generation and long to be part of the lineage of generations. If you happen to know it, feel free to sing along, but we're going to sing it for you. So one of the ways we as a community commit to caring for each other, to being that present, is through occasionally honoring the joys and the sorrows, the hopes and the concerns of this community. If you are with us virtually, please put your joys and concerns in the chat, and Brad will share those with us. And Ryan's got it too. We're good. We got multiple people. See how good we are at parenting each other? We got multiple people covering it. So you can put that in the chat, and we'll make sure that that gets spoken out loud. And what we're going to do is, you want to take the microphone around, Linda? Linda will bring the microphone around. You can just raise your hand, stand up, say your name, and let us know what your joy or your concern is, and we will light a candle for you.
I'm Kathy, and I'm here with my dad, Randy, and we have a concern because my dad's sister and my aunt, Linda, passed away last May 2nd, so we'd love to light a candle for her.
So I'm Judy, and it's an interesting sermon today, and it brought to mind that last December, my two pretty old daughters came and visited me, and there was some occasion in which we had to make name tags. And my daughters made a name tag for me that said matriarch. That was a turning point. I had never thought of myself that way, but I see how that is a progression of motherhood. And so as a matriarch, I called a Zoom meeting for the family today because it's Mother's Day.
So mine is both a joy and a concern. Hi, I'm Ash, they, them pronouns. The joy is I'm currently working on my master's degree in public health and focused in epidemiology. The concern is I am currently working on my master's degree in public health and epidemiology.
It always feels weird for me to sit down and talk to y'all because I can't see you. So I'm Morgan. I also have a joy and concern. Joy is, when I think of who parented me, all I thought of was this building and the people in it, and yeah, my mom and things like that too. But you guys, everybody in this room has been a parent in some way to me and my family, and if you haven't, I'm sure you will in the future, and that's such a loving, wonderful thing. My concern, I was in Nashville this past week, could see the Capitol building, couldn't get to the Capitol building for reasons. That's concerning, and I was there doing state training. Tomorrow I take an exam to see if I get to officially start helping as a social worker in child welfare, and I have a bunch of kids waiting for me to pass that test, so hopefully we'll pass, but until then, we're just very concerned about it.
Hi, my name is Sydney. Sometimes you got to celebrate the little wins, but I consider this a big win for me because for about a month I have been sleeping on the floor of my apartment on a little tiny pad because my mattress, I learned, was 10 years too old and not supporting my back, and I finally bought a new one, and I have had the best sleep of my life for the past week.
Woohoo!
Hi, I'm Stefan. So this discussion that Carol has led us in makes me reflect back. I've always been a highly, fiercely independent person. My parents taught me that, and it's very valuable. But in my adulthood, I have had people, unsolicited, people I know and care about, and some who I didn't realize cared so much about me, who have stepped forward and really picked up and helped me on things that I was just trying to figure out how was I going to take care of something. And, I think it's a real pay it forward because I live that way, but I didn't expect it from anybody else. And I really have a large handful of times in my life where people have really stepped forward and really made it easier for me, feeling safe and cared for, and despite how independent I was, maybe I wasn't capable of doing it all. So I'm very joyful and grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the conversation that makes me reflect on that. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Tremaine, and I have a joy that my graduation ceremony is in a week from today, yeah. And it's a really bittersweet just way of ending a chapter in my life, and I'm kind of ready to start a new one, and I can't wait.
And an added note on that, May 31st, the congregational meeting day, is also Tremaine's bridging ceremony for this congregation. We do a special ceremony that will be a special ceremony for Tremaine bridging from youth to young adulthood, so show up for that, please, if you're at all able. It's going to be a very special day.
My name is Jackson. I have a joy and a sorrow. I attend a weekly crafting group out in Fountain City, and one of the members of said crafting group is a lovely 17-year-old who has been through a lot of trauma and hardship in their very young life, and I have been kind of trying to be a mentor to them. So I have concerns about their well-being, but I'm also kind of joyful that I can be there for them because they remind me a lot of me when I was their age.
I'm Jonas Holdeman. My sister, Janie Holdeman Dean, lives in Colorado. Got a phone call from her daughter a couple of weeks ago that she was in the hospital with lymphoma. Now, I did some investigation to find out what lymphoma was. It's a autoimmune disease where the white blood cells that normally protect your body proliferate and then can gather together, and she had this mass in her lungs that difficulty breathing. It took her to the hospital. My sister had been, shall we say, overweight for many years, and she was down to 105 pounds, which is one of the symptoms of lymphoma, unexplained weight loss. And I'm really puzzled as to how it escaped the notice of her doctors, or the recognition that there was something wrong, because this weight loss took place over a year or two. And so I just wonder at times about whether our doctors have become essentially administrators instead of healers.
So we light one last candle, in addition to all those, for all the things that are spoken. And thank you for the courage to speak the things that are in your hearts. But also there are many things in our hearts that go unspoken, both joys and sorrows, celebrations and challenges. And we take the time to simply breathe for a moment. I invite you to just take a few deep breaths. In a world that is rushed, constantly trying to figure it out, fix it, and get it done, let us just take a moment to appreciate our capacity to feel for the smallest and the largest things. So we're going to do something a little bit different for our closing today. we're going to actually give each other a benediction. So benediction is a blessing. Okay? So some of you know this song if you've been in a UU church for very long. So we have a tradition in Unitarian Universalism back in the days pre-COVID when we had much larger numbers of younger children in our congregations. That has changed. That demographic has changed dramatically since COVID. In all congregations, that's not just here, that's pretty much everywhere. We used to have a part of our service where we'd tell a story to the kids, and then we'd sing to them. They would hear the story, and then they would go back to classes, and we would sing to them. And we haven't had enough small children since COVID, really, to do that. But that doesn't mean we should stop singing that nice song to each other. So I thought that today maybe we would practice singing it to each other. So while you're still sitting down, I'm going to teach it to you, and then we're going to stand up and we're going to sing it to each other a couple times through. So it's a G, isn't it, Sandra? Okay, I'm going to sing you a line. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you. That's high. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, 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 everywhere you may go. You may. Okay, now without the piano, we're going to sing it once through just to practice. Can I have the G again? Because we changed keys in the middle of that. All right, let's try it all together. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. So please, if you feel so inclined, rise, stand in body or stand in spirit. If you'd like to join hands with those around you, do so. Hold your own hand, because you know what? We deserve to have this in ourselves. Like you can hold your own hand. Some days there's not going to be someone nearby to sing this to you or to bring this energy to you, but you can bring it to yourself. So Sandra is going to play us a little intro, which many of us are going to recognize, and we're going to sing it twice through, Sandra. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you. Now we're going to do it again like you really mean it. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go in peace, knowing that this community, this life is waiting to support you. Let us be grateful for all the ways in which we have been held and supported, and let us carry that forward into the world. May it be so. Happy Mother's Day.